not the usual one, because I consider myself to be more of a financial industry, more of a banking person rather than anything else. So I won't brag about that. I'm a authority on banking as a subject, but I'm as a friend, as a mentor, as a guide. I'm here today to basically assist you all about discussion on various topics related to banking sector and financial sector. So anyone amongst you, because during my tenure as a banker for last 16 years across three major private banks in India, which is ICICI Bank, HDFC, and Kotak Mahindra Bank, more than 50 to 60% of my colleagues were women, right? And there's a reason to it. There are certain qualities which distinguish uh, women, which are literally attributes of women, which I feel that which are really helpful as far as the service sector is concerned. So the biggest quality is obviously the patience mindset and a keen learning ability, which I personally have felt are very much required as far as banking and financial industry is concerned. Now, I might have made a bit controversial statement out here, but excuse me, these are my observations and which are very much relevant. And that's why you say we see that currently a major hiring is predominantly as far as banking sector is concerned. They really take females into the parlance. And most of the new age private sector banks have ensured that they strictly follow the government guidelines and the RBI guidelines. And they are looking forward to more than 50% of the vacancies in the private sector across verticals, across divisions, is to be occupied by women. So having said that, let me start with a webinar. This webinar, let it be a more of an interactive kind rather than such a kind of a Gyan session. Yes, we'll be considering, we will be discussing the historical perspective. There might be few information which is available on internet domain, but I would really want to have a heart-to-heart discussion with all of you when I say that what actually are the dynamics of a banking industry, which are the various verticals, which are the various divisions you can look forward to in a banking industry, what are the key entry points, what are the various opportunities, and how and where to get into all these divisions. Because this is one area, or rather this is one sector, one industry, which has an absorption across various people who come from various varied backgrounds. You'll find a physics honor student as a banker. You will find a person from a biotechnology background who's heading an entire zone as far as banking is concerned. Yes, my dear friends. Uh, Obviously, there are CA, and obviously there are people from the economics honors and the uh, commerce background who occupy certain key positions as far as credit is concerned, the treasury operations, and obviously people from the IT background. They are very much important as far as the systems or the operations or the technology side of the banking is concerned. Mind you, the servers of the banks are one of the most secured and they are one of the most advanced servers. So the security systems which go into securing the entire enormous database that these banks are having, there's a too much riding over it. So banks do not take chance. They are always use the cutting edge technology as far as security is concerned. That's a prime importance. So we will be discussing all those things next 40-45 minutes. Just keenly listen to me. If you guys have any query with you, just be ready with it. We have a chat box and we can, I will definitely try to answer each and every question. So let me just share the screen as far as this presentation is concerned. Any one of you who has rights to speak can just confirm if you can see the slide, the presentation. Okay, we got the revert. Okay, Shana. So welcome you all. This is a very short description of mine. I'm Navneet Anand, business head with MBA division at Career Launcher. My next banker for the last 15 years, worked across 3 major private banks in India. And I'm a master's in business administration with a major in marketing and minor in finance from Narasimhan Institute of Management Studies, Mumbai. So here we go. A little bit of a historical perspective. When we talk about banking as such, we would definitely first be starting with State Bank of India, which is the bank as far as the India is concerned, one of the largest banks in India, and a fortune rank of 236, which is commendable as far as the Indian economy is concerned. One of the largest organizations and one of the largest employers. So a bit of a historical perspective. Became Bank of Calcutta in 1806. So the 3 banks at that point of time, Bank of Calcutta, Bank of Bombay, and Madras Bank, they merged to form a single bank, which is called an imperial bank. And we are still talking about the pre-independence era. So after independence, it was renamed as State Bank of India in the year 1955. And there is some interesting information I want to give it to you. A State Bank of India, right? State Bank of India does not come under purview of RBI. It's an independent public sector undertaking altogether. So it reports to the government straight away. So it actually does not straight away reports it to RBI. Now the Reserve Bank of India has a multitude of function, and the most prime function of Reserve Bank of India is it's a banker's bank. So all the banks across, whether it's scheduled, unscheduled, private sector, public sector, in fact, the rural banks and the payments banks and the banks which are, some kind of small finance banks, which are the new age banks, they all report to Reserve Bank of India. Now, friends, during this course of the entire presentation, I might use certain jargons which you particularly would want the real meaning of it. So just reserve your queries for that point of time. In case you don't understand thing, I'll definitely answer you that. So in 1949, it was given a role of a regulator. So according to Banking Regulations Act, it became a banker's bank in 1949. Now, India as such, if I talk about the region, which is very much a kind of if you say genesis of banking in India, was basically the entire Malabar coast, right? So it rises from the southern Karnataka to Kerala. The entire coastal region is basically region which is attributed towards the genesis of the banking in India. If I just give you a historical perspective, almost 40%, yes, you heard me right, almost 40% of the banks which are in India or which were in India, which started in India, they actually started from that particular region. Now, there's a very interesting fact to it. The banking first actually initiated in the 14th century in Holland, that's in Netherlands. So the Europeans, whenever they used to come to India, they usually used to have an interest as far as the trade was concerned. They were very much interested in the spices part of it. And the entire Malabar coast was very much kind of a cash rich, crop rich as far as this particular item of export is concerned. So during this entire exchange, they also exchanged the information regarding banks, and the locals, they came to know about the knowledge of banking from the Europeans, and thus the banking started in India. So कुछ कहते हैं ना कि मिट्टी में कुछ है वहाँ की, तो definitely there is something in the either in the soil or the air of that particular place that not only it has churned out various banks, but it has also churned out one of the best bankers around. So most of you have known about Mr. K.V. Kamath, who was responsible for bringing the entire retail revolution as far as retail banking is concerned. What ICICI Bank has done has started a revolution in which has reached banking to almost all the masses, like any kind of a commodity, right? Which was used to be like usually reserved for the strata of population. So what ICICI has done was that it has ensured that the reach of the bank has become very high. So RBI was very much pleased with the way the private banks proliferated, but that is something we'll discuss after a couple of slides. So guys, this particular slide is all about why Indian banks seldom fail or do not fail usually. There is a very strong reasoning behind it. So let's take an example. In 2008, when the subprime crisis, which is the real estate crisis, when it gripped US, one of the well-known names like Goldman Sachs or Wells Fargo, they all like fell like some it, they felt like just like an ordinary organization. So questions were being raised that how such a strong system of Federal Reserve, that is of the US bankers bank, they could not put checks and balances to ensure that these banks got away with such kind of a failure. So to ensure that we do not suffer such kind of a things or scenario, RBI is one body which ensure that it has put strict checks and balances, and that's not, I'm talking about only 2008, but prior to that also. That's why you will not always hear that any bank had got failed in India. So maybe a case in once in a two, maybe in a 10 years or 20 years, you'll see PMC banks kind of a thing, Mercantile Bank in Mumbai, which not exactly has failed, but has sort of given advances to some kind of an NPS, have actually become at a very high rate. So we will not be getting into that, but it's like a once in a blue moon kind of a case, right? So as far as RBI is concerned, it has put certain measures like cash reserve ratio that you can see in this particular slide, in which they have instructed all these banks, to put a certain sum of their net demand and time liabilities on fortnightly basis with the RBI. It ranges from 3% to maximum to 20%. Now, what is demand and time liabilities? Liability for a bank is customers' money. People like you and me, when we put our money in current and saving accounts, that is called a liability for a bank. So whenever we demand money from the bank, our money, which is if we need some money from our savings account or a current account, we go to the ATM or we go to the bank and get the money. So that is called demand liability. And time liability is it's a fixed duration for which we have promised the bank that will not take out the money, and definitely because of that, bank gives us a slightly higher rate than usual, which is like a fixed deposit. So a 3% to 20% of fixed deposit, depending upon the economic situation, current situation, RBI instructs that bank, they need to keep this kind of cash with the RBI at all the time. So this ensures that banks never fail. We also have certain mechanisms with respect to ensure that the most of the banks, they do not overly borrow from the central bank, which is RBI. So yes, RBI itself is a lender to various banks across. So whenever banks need cash, they approach RBI, for which RBI charges the interest rate. Now, in a situation wherein if there is a huge inflation in the country, so the money supply should not go very high into the system. So RBI deliberately increases the repo rate. That means it's kind of a deterrent for other banks to now borrow from the RBI. So when they borrow at very lesser rate or a kind of a thing, when they borrow less, so there'll be less amount of currency in the system, which arrests the inflation. So these are the kind of guidelines. So these are one of the only two amongst many variables, the kind of a checks and balances which RBI has put up to ensure that banks in India never fail. Now, if I gonna take a webinar or a class on why banks do not fail, it will go beyond 2 hours. So let's. I just wanted to highlight these two critical points. So these two critical points ensure almost 60 to 70% of the situation is being controlled. Now, if I talk about the classification of the banks, yes, so we have a scheduled banks and a non-scheduled bank. What is a scheduled bank? So as per RBI Act of 1934, all the banks which come under the second schedule are called scheduled banks, which include the State Bank of India, all the public sector undertakings. So in the previous slide, when I talked about the nationalization of the banks, so friends, there were multiple banks, private banks, which were prevalent in the economy prior to 1969. Now, hats off to the Prime Minister at that point of time, Indira Gandhi, who's the finance minister. The kind of thinking that went into was that in order to ensure that India grows at a rapid pace, the lending has to go to the priority sector or the area or the sector which is on a fast growth path. Now, in order to ensure that entire thing it needs to be regulated, and also come under the umbrella of government, so that government also watches whether the money supply is reaching at the right places or not. They sort of kind of nationalize all those private banks which are prevalent at that point of time. So around 14 banks, private banks at that time became nationalized. What they become are basically public sector undertakings rather than just a private banks. And in the 1980 again, further 6 more banks got added into the PSU system. So these banks, they started as a PSU. So there will be a lot of debate that PSUs are not actually kind of working in a right way, or there are huge amount of losses they are bearing, or the kind of uh, systematical errors and the losses and the NPAs which are riding over PSUs. There were instances of corruption and all. So lots of loose talk goes around. But I think we should need to look at the bigger picture. The reason for existence of PSU is that almost every sector, almost every industry of the economy is being taken care of, and government has its lens on all the economies. So all these PSUs and the private banks and the RRBs, which are the regional rural banks, they come under the purview of scheduled banks. And there are some specific banks like the NABARD, which is National Bank of Agriculture and Rural Development, which gives facilities like microfinance to ensure that the very lowest strata of the economy who wants to start something of their own, they can avail the facility of lending from these banks. So what exactly happened was in 90s was a mushrooming growth of the private sector bank space in India. So ICICI Bank 1994, HDFC Bank again 1994, and then the UTI Bank, which eventually became Axis Bank, and the IndusInd Bank, they got launched in the 90s. So what immediately the positive impact of the launch of these banks were that these banks, they started opening their branches in your neighborhood. That means the banking had become far more easier. They introduced technology. So when we talk about all the cards or the debit cards or the credit cards kind of thing, or the retail loans, loans to fund a bike or a car, they were now available very easily and very quickly with respect to the functioning of the PSU banks. So these were the banks who redefined the service industry, which was non-existent at that point of time. The employees of these banks were given higher pay packets with respect to the PSUs. So the service delivery expected and the way it came out was of supreme magnitude. Yes. So this is what RBI has done, and RBI has been very careful to give licenses to organizations, to groups which it felt were very comfortable. You'll still see that the likes of Ambani's and the Tata Group, they are still to get the license. My dear friends, these are the groups who, if given license, they would eventually become the biggest of the banks. But there are certain, as I said, there are certain checks and balances that Reserve Bank of India has put in to ensure that the reason for coming or getting into the banking fold is the very strong one. Now, who could have thought there's an organization by the name of Bandhan, a non-banking financial company at that point of time, will be given a license? Yes, it was in the race, but when I speak the names, you will say Bandhan stands a very less chance. During 2015, when eventually the licenses were being distributed. So Bandhan actually competed with not only Ambani, but the Tatas or the Aditya Birla Group, but there were other organizations also who financially were far more better placed than Bandhan. But the key reason for which only Bandhan got the license was that it was riding with a customer base of 1 crore and plus, which belonged to the most remotest regions of Bihar and Bengal. So what RBI saw was that an opportunity that the banking will reach to such a huge mass, which the Aditya Birla Group or Ambani wouldn't have been given. Also, there was a concern about giving a pure scheduled bank license, commercial bank license to entities who are into the technology field or maybe in the telecommunication field. So there are security flaws and all that RBI thought about it, and that's why those licenses were not given to these organizations but given to Bandhan Bank. So as I'm speaking to you, there are almost 160 commercial banks which are currently operating in India, and with a cumulative branches of approximately 1.2 lakhs. So see the kind of population that we have, with 1,20,000 of branches, it has a reach of almost 12,000 per bank from bank branch. And the entire banking sector employs close to 13 lakh people. Now, this is currently a market share, a broad speaking market share of the banks in India. So I've omitted all those banks which are less than 3.5% market share, but this gives a very bird's eye. This gives you a bird's eye view of the current market share. So in the recent times, there were certain PSU banks which went for a consolidation. Now, why the consolidation is happening in a banking industry? This is a very pertinent question. The key reason that why consolidation is happening. And before I give that, what is the meaning of consolidation? Consolidation means that in order to ensure to bring about the efficiency in the system, one, two or more banks, they come together, they go for a merger, and they operate as a single entity. This ensures a bigger efficiency. This also ensures that they kind of mutually utilize the installed capacity of each other, right? So that is the reason why 2 to 3 years back, you've seen the merger of Punjab National Bank, Oriental Bank of Commerce, and United Bank. So when they got merged, they become the second largest entity. It is pleasant to see HDFC Bank standing at third position. A private bank which was launched in 1994, just in a very recent times, has gone on to take the third position as far as the entire banking industry is concerned. So a 7.7% market share is amazing, followed by Bank of Baroda, again a PSU. Then the fifth position by merger of Canara Bank and Syndicate Bank. The sixth position by Union Bank of India, Andhra Bank and Corporation Bank merger. And finally, another private bank, ICICI Bank, standing at eighth position, followed by the Axis Bank, again a private bank. So this is currently the market share as far as the Indian banking is concerned. This is as of 2019, March 31st. So banking license, whenever RBI gives a banking license, it misses out on the licenses. That's the thing I've already discussed, this particular thing. So a promising performance of 90s, for example, HDFC Bank, not HDFC Limited, gave a 25% and above growth every quarter for consecutive 27 quarters, my dear friends. So this is a kind of growth that HDFC has given. So this is not, this is the single biggest reason why HDFC Bank has surmounted everyone and has reached the third position. If I see the market share, it is not very far behind the combined strength of PNB, OBC, and United Bank. And eventually, it is envisaged that in this financial year itself, HDFC will be standing at the second position as far as the growth is, as far as the market share is concerned. So this actually prompted RBI to go for another round of giving license, which is a very not very surprising, because RBI, though it's very cautious about giving licenses, but itni jaldi dega ye nahi bharosa tha. So in 2003, it gave license to Kotak. It also gave a license to a bank called an entity called Centurion. But what actually happened was that Kotak had a very stunted growth. No, it was not growing at par with what HDFC and ICICI, the kind of beginning they had, the kind of head start they had. Kotak was not able to match that, and obviously Centurion was a non-starter. In fact, Centurion got merged with a PSU, which is Bank of Punjab, which became Centurion Bank of Punjab, and eventually in 2008, both of them, they got merged with HDFC Bank. So that is why RBI gave a very hard view. So India, which was to witness a flurry of banks, suddenly RBI stopped giving licenses, and in fact in 2015 gave license to only Bandhan Bank. But ऐसा नहीं है कि RBI देखता नहीं है. So what RBI did was that RBI launched Payments Bank also. So in order to synergize the reach of the telecommunication companies and the postal department, RBI basically launched various payments bank. इसमें कुछ कंडीशन थे, अगर आप स्लाइड देखेंगे तो उस पर लिखा है the deposits are restricted to only 1 lakh rupees and they will not lend. So the primary function of the bank is to lend, which they are not supposed to do. That is one. But they can take deposits up to 1 lakh. So you see the Paytm again, Fino, Airtel, Aditya Birla, Idea Payments, India Post Payments Bank Limited. They started as a payments bank, and these are all new age banks. Then we have a small finance banks also. Now, why the small banking finance banks were launched? Because इस इतना कुछ करने के बावजूद भी ICICI, HDFC, UTI, Axis, what you call it, and all the banks, Bandhan Bank also, still there was an enormous population which still was not getting the services of the banking. So unbanking regions जिसे हम बोलते हैं, जिन्होंने कभी scheduled banks की services नहीं ली हैं, वहाँ पर small finance banks उसके लिए launch किए गए. With the condition, in सब companies, ये जो 10 companies के नाम लिखे हुए हैं, all these 10 companies got the license to start as a small finance bank with a promise that they will be opening at least 25% of the branches in these unbanking regions. Number one. Number two, they can lend, but 75% of loans need to go to the priority sector lending. And number three, to ensure that they do not start with NPAs, right? 50% loans should be less than 25 lakhs. So on this promise, on this condition, RBI flourished the small finance bank, unleashed the small finance banks, and all of a sudden you could see आपके नेबरहुड में भी कुछ इन ब्रांचेस, इन बैंक्स की ब्रांचेस आपको दिखती होंगी, लाइक इक्विटास, एयू स्मॉल फाइनेंस, उज्जीवन उत्कर्ष, जना. सो आप भी बोलते होगे ये कौन से बैंक्स हैं? दीज आर बेसिकली स्मॉल फाइनेंस बैंक्स, राइट? दे आर शेड्यूल्ड बैंक्स. Now we have an independent body which does not report to RBI or anyone, but which is like a kind of a watchdog, and which is BCSBI, which is Banking Codes and Standards Board of India. So Banking Codes and Standard Boards of India, and it regularly conducts an audit, a surprise audits. It conducts a surprise audit by visiting any branch of any bank, and the audit is basically only for just an hour. So I myself have been branch managers across these three banks, and I've faced BCSBI at least 3 times in my life. I am very much, I can vouch out for the fact that a very ordinary looking man or a woman would enter, and it will suddenly flash a card like a CBI in front of the branch manager. And or if branch manager is not present, the second in command to say, I'm here to do the BCSBI audit. And that audit is like, it will ask 10 questions from the branch manager or the branch operation manager. If they cannot answer successfully 8 out of 10, then you have failed in the BCSBI thing, and a very strict action is taken against you. So this is these are the kind of checks and balances that these kind of independent bodies have done to ensure that we run banking operations very, very carefully, very meticulously, and very efficiently. Apart from this, we have an official body which is called an ombudsman. In case you are not happy with some dispute which is going out with you and a bank, then you can certainly approach the ombudsman. Within 1 month, ombudsman will hear from your side of the story as well as the banker's story, and whatever right that ombudsman feel, that is like वो मानना ही पड़ता है, and आपको या तो मुआवजा मिलेगा या आपको नकारी मिलेगी. That's something like that. So they have 22 regional offices, banking ombudsman across India. Every bank has its own nodal officer which represents his or her own bank and reporting to banking ombudsman. A few more into last 1 or 2 slides into the technology part, and then we'll straight away jump into the career opportunities. So MICAR is magnetic ink character recognition. आपने जब भी check देखा होगा तो check के बिल्कुल bottom में those digits are there. So the number, a 6-digit number on the leftmost side is a check number, and then followed by a 9-digit number. So 9-digit number is basically a MICAR code, or that is like the identity of that check. So first three code represent the code of that particular bank. The next three, the city that it is present in, and the next three is the branch it represents in that particular city. So MICAR adoption is something like when the checks became of a very huge quantity in 70s and 80s, they adopted the MICAR the kind of a framework, and the identification of check became a very easy step. Then the computerization came in the 90s, and then followed by electronic fund transfer, in which your funds got transferred up to 1 lakh within 24 hours. and then started the chunk truncation system. Check truncation system is nothing but your check is called the soft copy of check is being scanned, particularly the last line that I talked about, the check number and the microcode number, and it participates in the clearing house. So earlier क्या होता था, 2008 से पहले क्या होता था कि आप जब भी चेक ड्रॉप करने जाते थे ब्रांचेस में, तो जो ऑफिस बॉय होता था वो सारे चेक्स लेके, या जो भी बंदा क्लियरिंग में पार्टिसिपेट करता था वो एक क्लियरिंग हाउस जाता था. तो फॉर एग्जांपल इन दिल्ली यू हैड अ क्लियरिंग हाउस of Kanchenjunga building in what do you call it, KG Mart, right? So there was a clearing house in which the representatives of all the banks used to come with the huge number of checks and they used to exchange check. वो एक पूरा clearing process होता था और 3 दिन बाद जाके आपका check भुनाते थे, मतलब या उसको आपके अकाउंट में क्रेडिट होता था. But with the advent of check truncation system, all that we need to was done कि आपका check scan हो जाता था. Only the information of check goes into the clearing house. Now physically no one goes to the clearing house. Everything is electronically passed on and the clearing happens electronically and with a zero error. So you can see the kind of technology which has gone into making this very much possible, which is what we are experiencing right now. So when you put a check, it's a at par check, it gets cleared in the very next day evening. Or if it's a outstation check, it still takes 7 days, no issues. So now we come to the part of it about the information which is usually not given on internet or anywhere. This is purely my experiences across last 15 years, my dear friends. And what are its impact on the career that you want to take is actually bank's branch is a focal point through which everything begins. So the first lead about any kind of a product first comes to the bank's branch, right? Now the branch can be a very small one or a medium one or a bigger one. It might house, certain PSU branches also house their own clearing. So such is the kind of the large operations that the banks perform. So a bank's branch is a kind of a profit center, right? RBI gives license to scheduled banks, commercial banks to earn profit and to give to generate employment, to earn huge amount of profit and come into profitability. Now, the more number of loans or the mortgages or the credit cards or the various kind of loans that a bank distributes through its branches or through its loan offices, they are supposed to generate a huge amount of income for the bank itself in the form of interest rates. Then the kind of liabilities, the kind of saving account, a current account, the FD or the FCNA, which is foreign currency, non-resident, which is a kind of FD for people who are settled abroad. If they do FD over here, they all come under the liability. They become the liability portion of a bank. And then you have the third-party products like the life insurance, general insurance, the trading, market trading that we talk about in stock markets, and obviously the mutual funds, which are third-party product. What is the meaning of third-party product? First party is you as a customer. Second party is the bank with which it has a relation. And third party is usually an outside company which has an association with a bank and it can sell the products to you. So for example, Yes Bank might be having a partnership with Max Life. So Max Life is an insurance company which has a partnership with Yes Bank, and the Yes Bank, obviously let's say you are a customer of Yes Bank, so Max can offer products to you. So these are the kind of products which are sold from a bank's branch also. And then you have important things like operations, audit, and compliance. Like BCSBI, we have RBI audits also. And if someone is having an RBI audit, that means something is very much grave. And let me tell you guys, every month, every branch of every bank has to give a reporting of its closing of its books, about its audit, about its various processes. The report needs to be submitted to the nodal agency of that particular bank, which in turn submits the report of all the branches to the Reserve Bank of India, right? So if any report is being missing for any particular month, RBI has a lens on it. It sends its person out there to that particular branch and that person will come unannounced. Again speaking, it's an industry which commands highest respect, not for nothing, for the very simple reason you need to be very, very astute, shrewd, and on top of your game as far as efficiency is concerned. That's why bankers are one of the most highly paid people around, for the very simple reason the kind of no nonsense approach they have towards their professional life around. Now, to assist the banking operation, you have various feeder channels like the credit department and the treasury operations and the audit and compliance and wealth management, investment banking. Now, my dear friends, as far as the career opportunities are concerned, this is the retail banking. When I talk about a bank's branch, this is retail banking, right? When you get into a credit, in a credit, typically a CA profile or the people who have done a certain course in accounting, they are being preferred to take. A treasury operations and ALM. ALM is the asset liability management, the balance between amount of loan that you need to give as a banker and the amount of money you need to take from people to ensure there is a balance, right? मैं इतना ज्यादा ना lend कर दूं कि मेरे पास पैसा ना बचे, मैं इतना ज्यादा भी पब्लिक से पैसा नहीं ले लूं कि मैं उसको इंटरेस्ट ना दे पाऊं. ये सब चीजें जो बंदे मैनेज करते हैं, दे आर द पार्ट ऑफ ALM टीम, asset liability management. And one of the finest brains that you'll find in Indian economy usually come from the asset liability management and treasury operations of a bank. And yes, final thing is you need to have a people who are very much compliance minded and who have that brain for audit. They are the part of audit and compliance. And yes, we also, the banks also offer you wealth management and investment banking. Wealth management investment banking are the prerogatives of only those people who have superior number crunching skills and who can really perform well in the stock market. So what are the various attributes when they're looking for a person who come as a banker? So a banker's mindset is that of a very profit making. No, you need to be kind of a person who can do a negotiation skills really well, and to get the maximum order from the other party, maybe a customer or maybe an organization. You need to have that kind of a number crunching skills कि हमेशा आपके दिमाग में कैलकुलेशन चलते रहने चाहिए कि बॉस कहीं मेरे को पैसा ज्यादा नहीं देना है, right? Then you need to be kind of a person, you need to have a very go-getter, aggressive and execution mindset, because in case you are given an opportunity in terms of closing a sale or a deal, then you need to be amongst the first person to reach to the client and close it as soon as possible. When you are given a totally greenfield project or a location which is completely new, you need to have that kind of a mindset in which you can stand the business at a drop of a hat. So that is why you say, no, people who are usually, if I talk about NCR, people who usually get placements in banks in areas like, South Gurgaon or maybe the upscale localities of Noida, they do really well, because these are the areas in which the people have settled very lately and they are having a good amount of money. Fifth, you need to have the kind of a person with a very strong negotiation skills to get the favorable deals for your bank. You need to have a supreme service delivery mindset. And the most important thing is the integrity, a kind of a thing, a character of yours when you are doing things when nobody's watching you. So you need to be very a person with a very strong integrity if you are looking for a career in banking. Now, what are the various opportunities? When we talk about retail banking or maybe a branch of a bank, when you are actually handling a relationship size ranging from just 50,000 bucks to 25 crores, that kind of relationship is when it comes under the purview of retail banking. Then goes the corporate banking. So instead of looking after only the individuals or the families, now you are the kind of person who are looking for the entire banking for corporate, for example, right? So your relationship size ranges from 25 crores to 250 crores. And then comes the wholesale banking. Now, this is a very exciting field. A wholesale banking is like a one-stop solution for all your banking needs, number one. Number two, the bank will provide you the subject experts to close various mergers and acquisitions. Yes, my dear friends. So entire underwriting and everything, it comes under the purview of wholesale banking. तो मतलब इसका मतलब ये है कि अब आप अपना बस बिजनेस देखो, बाकी उसका जितना फाइनेंस और मर्जर एक्विजिशन का वो आप मेरे को दे दो. Then comes the treasury operations. And the people, again, I say, the people who usually graduate from the top 10 or 20 colleges, MBA colleges of India, they usually get into the treasury operations and the investment banking and the wholesale banking. The rest too, like retail banking and corporate banking, the people come from various backgrounds. People can come from any background, right? So you you have two choices, my dear friends, whether you can start as a probationary officers or you can start as a management trainee. Uh, the various kind of, the process of selection of probationary officers is divided into two stages. First is the elimination stage, which is the four sections in which your aptitude is being tested is first is the general awareness, second, the data interpretation and logical reasoning, verbal reasoning, and the English language skills. So these are being tested as far as the recruitment of probationary officers in most of the PSUs are concerned. Private banks, they do not take probationary officers rather. And if you are looking forward for a greater role in banking, a huge growth in banking, or a great head start in a banking, you need to join as a management trainee in a bank in some of the key critical functions to ensure that your growth is very fast. So before I come back to how to go about that, let me first just touch upon what is NBFC. A non-banking financial company, essentially the difference between a non-banking financial company and a bank is that a bank comes under the purview of RBI Act, while an NBFC is through any other company like comes under the purview of Companies Act 1956. So there is no transaction activity altogether in an NBFC bank. So ऐसा कुछ नहीं होगा, डेली की ट्रांजेक्शन्स आरटीजीएस एनईएफटी ऐसा कुछ नहीं होता है. दे डू नॉट पार्टिसिपेट इन क्लियरिंग, इनके कोई चेक्स नहीं होते हैं. They cannot take deposit other than FD. So my dear friends, you have something called HDFC Limited, and then you have something called HDFC Bank, right? So HDFC Limited is a financier which is not a bank, but it can offer FD but not the saving and the current account. While an HDFC bank comes under the purview of RBI, a pure bank in which lots of transactions happen. It has its own checks, and it can also take deposits other than fixed deposit, which is saving current accounts, and of course it can give you credit cards also. A brief about the insurance. So this slide you can see out here, but the noteworthy thing is that how big is the LIC? We can gauge from the fact that when the LIC came into existence, in 1956, at that point of time, some 245 Indian and foreign insurance, they got merged to become what became Life Insurance Corporation of India, a government entity, a public sector undertaking. Finally, government wake up to the fact that it need to inject some innovation in insurance, and to break the monopoly of LIC, it introduced FDI at 26%. That's why you saw ICICI had a partnership with Prudential, which is a UK-based company. Then HDFC started with a partnership with Standard Life, which is a South African insurer. Bajaj came in tie-up with Allianz, which is a German insurer, right? So FDI was capped at 26%. This limit was revised to 49% in 2014. Insurance Regulatory Development Authority, established in 1999, is a kind of a watchdog which oversees all the insurers, ensures that it puts up various checks and balances like RBI does for banks, so that they do not play around with customers. So to sell life insurance or a general insurance, you need to have an IRDA certification, with which I personally feel that if you study really well for a month, you can crack it. Does not just pass it, but crack it. So this is a market share. You cannot beat LIC at 69.40, almost 70% market share, but others also catching up. This situation is still better than 2000 when the licenses were being distributed. This share was actually more than 90%, which is now 70% of LIC. Various general insurance companies. What the general insurance is all about: your health insurance, travel insurance, your car insurance, a marine insurance, that means your shipping and all, your home insurance, and everything it comes under the general insurance. So an officer to a general manager, my dear friends, in just 15 years, I can give you at least 4 to 5 examples, that I've experienced in my career, in which people from officer cadre became general manager, senior general manager, and a joint general manager in flat 15 years. So how they do it? See, it's very important that you start really well. Either you are very strong in politics, which I feel is something as a youngster you should not even think about it. But it's something in case you are really interested in banking as a career. The best thing about this career is it has an absorption across industry. So you will see people, as I told you, the people from varied background, they come under the banking sector. And because the kind of scope that bank offers, you need not be just a commerce graduate or an economics graduate to get into a bank. But what is really important is that you need to join these banks as a management trainee from the top 20 colleges of India. Now, if you see on the left hand side, there's a list of 20 IIMs. I would still restrict myself to the 6 IIMs. So, a Carnegie College student, which is a prestigious college as far as Delhi University is concerned, and it got a brand name in itself, should not, as a student of that particular college, you should not think of any other college apart from the 6 IIMs which are being written over here, which is Ahmedabad, Bangalore, Kolkata, Lucknow, Kozhikode, Indore. At same point of time, if you cannot get into the 6 IIMs, on the right hand side, the colleges which are written, these are one of the best colleges through which you can get your placements into the banking. My dear friends, banking as a sector can never ever come under recession. Let me tell you, my dear friends, it has become a very essential part of our lives now. That is number one. India's economy is yet to see consolidation. So when it will see consolidation, it will see the efficiency coming into the system. When the banking system demands efficiency from the people, then obviously the number one choice is the recruitment of youngsters. That is the reason why you see the average age of an employee in banking industry, if I say 10 years back, is reduced by 7 years. It's a mind-boggling fact. So people are no more interested in facing people who do not have a service delivery mindset, which they usually beget it from PSUs. In fact, PSUs are facing massive changes. So the youngsters are taking over some key positions in even PSUs. My dear friends, for the very first instances, some of the public sector underwriting banks are now hiring chief executive officers from renowned private insurance companies as well as private banks. So things are going for a change. Now, to get through institution, these are the various, if I see the 5, amongst these 6, 5 are the different specializations of MBA, which is marketing, finance, human resource, operations, and systems. All these 5 have an absorption. So you can go into the marketing of financial services like me, what I did. You can get into the credit and the treasury operations if you want to take up finance. As a human resource person who specializes in human resource, you can take up the training and development, the hiring and the compensation and benchmarking roles in a bank. Operations बताने की जरूरत भी नहीं है कि इसका कितना जरूरत है बैंक में. And as far as systems are concerned, if you are the kind of person from the technical background, let's say if you are from an IT background or computers background, then you are very much in demand as far as bank is concerned, because banks are looking forward to such kind of people. Now, the people who do their majors from actuarial sciences, these are the people who are preferred basically for underwriting operations and in the insurance sector. So for mission entrance prep, you need to take up common admission test, Xavier aptitude test, Maharashtra common entrance test, Indian Institute of Foreign Trade, Delhi, and then Nursing Munji admission test for Nursing Munji and Symbiosis National Aptitude test for Symbiosis Center of Institutions. Now, in case you are really interested in going for MBA entrance preparation, then I would suggest you to please go ahead and prepare yourself really well for CAT. Some of you, if you will be taking CAT this year on 29th of November, we have come with an event by the name of Race to 99 Percentile. This is an annual event as far as Career Launcher students are concerned, in which the best of the tutors, amongst us, they come over on a single platform, and there are series of sessions. So this particular thing is starting from this 13th September, coming Sunday. In case you want to register for it, this is the link through which you can go and register. It's also mentioned on our website at Career Launcher. So I'm through with this, friends. There is one small request. There's an alumni of your college. Her name is Neha Wahi, who's one of the respected employees of ours. She has come out with an idea. Uh, if you could see the screen out here, it says too many girls want to be models, not enough want to be role models. So she has been taking these sessions across Delhi, Mumbai, and Hyderabad. If you guys agree, we can have a session for your own college. The best part is that Neha herself belongs to Gargi College, and it's been more than 15, 16 years now since she graduated from Gargi, and she's pursuing her career in Career Launcher as one of the finest speakers, motivators, and mentors for many students. So by this, I just end my session. But at the same point of time, I open it this to all of you for queries in case you want to have. Any query with respect to banking as a career, its opportunities? इतना सन्नाटा तो तब होता है जब बंदा बहुत पक चुका हो या फिर उसको सर के ऊपर से निकला हो. आई एम वेरी सॉरी फ्रेंड्स इन केस यू फेल्ट दैट वे, but just wanted to have a very a very heart to heart discussion on you on this very serious subject, which is banking and finance. So in case you have any query, you can put it on the chat box, or you can go for one-on-one counseling sessions if required. Karan, who's a representative at your college, will definitely share my number with you, and we can get into a discussion. Any questions? Well. So the moderator, if you feel we can close this.
Sir, actually, everybody are on mute. I guess they are not able to.
No, I'm saying you can put it on the chat box. So,
okay,
Khushi,
sir, we have a doubt there from Khushi.
Yeah. So I could see that's a career for economics honor students. Khushi, as I told you, there is no limit to an economics honors or BCom honors student can go to various functions of banking. But let me tell you, there is one function of banking that you should aim for, one or two rather, and you should not settle for anything less. As famously said by one of the Bollywood actors, sorry, Shah Rukh, at some point of time, you should aim for stars. At least you'll land on top of the world. So as an economics honor student, a very prestigious course from one of the very prestigious college, which is Gargi College. You are a student of that particular college. You should not aim for anything less than treasury operations in a bank, asset liability management position in a bank, or a wholesale banking in a bank. Or you can go to the policy group of a bank, which devises the policies of credit, right? You can get into a credit department. Despite the fact that you are not a CA, you can still get into a credit department wherein you will lay down, or you will be the part of the team that lays down the guidelines for the credit to the various groups. Now, it can be a auto loan, it can be a home loan, it can be mortgage, SME enterprise, MSME loans. So you can be part of the policy group, number one, or you should become the part of the treasury operations or the asset liability management team. You can only go into these three things if you have done your MBA from a top 20 college. If you have not done your MBA from top 20 college, you can still get into banks, but then you'll be getting into something called retail banking group, जहाँ पे मारामारी थोड़ी ज़्यादा होती है, right? Okay, I hope Khushi that answered. Sir, some colleges you would preferably such a human resource out of top 20. Brilliant. So, Ritika, सबसे पहला college जो आपको target करना है, if you want to have sort of specialization in human resource, number one is and I'll also name the program, which is PMIR. I'll just put it on the chat box if you could see it. It is PMIR, which is Personnel Management and Industrial Relations. This program is only offered in XLRI. It is considered best in Asia. The entire HR program of PMIR is considered best in Asia. It is a program of such a high value that आपको placements तो बात की बात है. You will get the best of the opportunities in those companies themselves, right? जो ये जिन profiles के लिए वो किसी और campus में भी नहीं चाहते. The second institute, if you cannot get into XLRI, is Tata Institute of Social Sciences, or TISS. So for getting into a PMI program, you need to get at least 95 percentile in XAT. To get into Tata Institute of Social Sciences in Mumbai, you need to write something called TISSNET, right? Apart from this, definitely I'm A, B, and C. So I hope that answered. Sir, how do treasury operations compare in corporates to those in banks? How do treasury operations compare in corporates to those in banks? बहुत सिंपल है. देखो राधिका, अगर मैं आपको बोलूं एक बैंक की जो बैलेंस शीट होती है ना, that is the simplest balance sheet. A bank's balance sheet is the most simplest one that you can see in your entire accounting, because entries बहुत कम होंगी क्या यार? कोई डेटर्स, सन्ड्री डेटर्स, क्रेडिटर्स होते क्या हैं? सन्ड्री डेटर्स कौन हुए जिनसे मैंने लोन का पैसा वापस लेना है एज अ बैंक? सन्ड्री क्रेडिटर्स कौन हुए जिनको मैंने पैसे वापस देने हैं, वो बैंक के कस्टमर्स, राइट? सो अ बैंक्स बैलेंस शीट इज वेरी सिंपल. Where the complication arise is the size of an operation. So in a corporate, the size of operation, let's say, of a very small magnitude. But in a bank, which has a customer base of more than 1 lakh, imagine the kind of entries, the kind of the checks that you need to keep in to ensure that every entry is settled in the correct account. So the size of operation is the key differentiator between a normal corporate and a bank. I hope that answered. It's actually good to see the quality of questions that you guys are asking, which is amazing. And I was ready for Gagi College questions also. This is a similar response that I got from Xavier's in Mumbai also. So this is great. Hats off to you guys. I know you guys are on right track. So if there are any other questions, it's fine. If there aren't any, despite the fact that Karan will be sharing, this is my number. This is my WhatsApp number, call number, whatever you call it. Just put a message to me in case you are confused on any part. Or if you want to have a one-to-one counseling, you can get it booked through Karan. Although we charge for you for this, but as far as this college is concerned, we will waive it off. Don't worry. So you can go for the one-to-one counseling. Also, as mentioned in the previous message of Karan, I would want Karan to again flash that message of 99% raised to 99 percentile. Friends, anyone, everyone who wish to see a career in banking need to crack CAT, XAT, and other exams. Please attend this session. This is of extreme importance if you want to take CAT this year, next year. Master in Business Administration, Master Business Economics. So Harshini, there is a course which was earlier called Master in Finance, which is in South Campus. It's one of course जहाँ पे थोड़ा placements अच्छा होता है. Otherwise, if you're talking about MBA or a PGDM, that stands a far greater chance as compared to MBE. Again, people with an MBE will rather go into a policy making or so, but a graduate from MBA can go into multi-direction mode. It can be a marketing of financial services, it can be the wholesale banking, it can be the corporate banking, or the credit also. Thanks, Harshini. Any other query? I believe, Vani, we are through with queries.
Yes, sir. So Thank you on behalf of Gagi College and Placement Cell. I would like to thank everyone who has contributed for this webinar, and special thanks to you, sir, for enlightening us with your knowledge and presence and with an excellent presentation. And
Thanks.
thank you everyone for joining.
Thank you, friends. Thank you. Wish you all the very best. Be safe and do well.
Thank you, sir.